2000's pop punk just feels different, and it has a lot to do with Travis Barker and Blink-182, and it's not because he knows Tom DeLonge, or because he hits the drums harder than anyone's hit anything ever in their lives, or because he made a brand that every dude in the early 2000s got tattooed on themselves somewhere. It is all these things, but it's actually something else. And that something else is the 2001 snare from the Blink-182 album, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Such a specific video, this one. The album has such clean and hard-hitting production, and I think that has a lot to do with the producer Jerry Finn and the mix engineer Tom Lord-Alge. The drums on this album are so bombastic and gnarly and clean, but somehow not too clean, and that's what we're focusing on today. And specifically, we're going to be looking at Please Take Me Home, the last song on the album. And the magic of this snare in this album comes from the middle. And when I say the middle, I mean the middle of the frequency spectrum. In this case, we'll be talking about 300 hertz to about 800 hertz. This will be known as the Barker zone because, full pun intended, and also this is kind of the bark of the drums. If we can find the weight of the snare in the 250 hertz section and lower, and we find the high end of the snare at about 8K and higher, then the middle of that snare is where we're going to find that Barker zone, where it gives the snare the certain personality and bark and bulk to it. It also contains this area and this resonance that almost gives the snare its own note. Now, this Barker zone isn't really used as much as it is in this context in new modern hardcore pop punk styles. This 300 to 800 Barker zone can really mud up a snare or a mix if used too aggressively or not cleaned up properly enough. And these modern pop punk and hardcore productions don't really have as much of those 300 to 800 Barker zone qualities, so there's not as much shine to those specific parts in those songs anymore. But that's what makes this Blink-182 record so special. Rather than treating this area as like a muddy, cluttered area of the snare, they really push this to shine and give the drums this crazy, bombastic characteristic. And what's also sick and awesome is that all of the vocal production, guitars, all of the stuff surrounding the drums is very clean, and they've made the drums so gnarly and raw sounding that there's this great contrast between the two that gives the record what it is. A pop punk masterpiece, dude. Now, I think Enema of the State also has these qualities to it, and Boxcar Racer also has these qualities, maybe even more so than this record. But I think Take Off Your Pants and Jacket has really perfected the very clean production versus the very raw drums, and it's so awesome.